Good morning. Welcome to Gentle Somatic Yoga. Today's theme is about self-love. and we hear a lot about self-love, but self-love, in my opinion, has a lot of little small components to it that are pretty important, including forgiveness. So forgiving yourself for any transgressions that you think you may have done, that's one thing. Compassion, when we love our children or pets or a spouse or a mother or a father, we would be very compassionate toward them and understanding. So we have to learn how to do that for ourselves. Care obviously is involved. Letting go of things like judgment and blaming, and self-love is not selfish. And that's like a theme that I really want you to understand, that having self-love gives you the capacity to love other people a little more deeply. So throughout the practice, the way you're going to demonstrate your self-love to yourself is by being totally aware of doing what feels good for yourself. So it's also, and I forgot to say this, it's about self-empowerment. And the more you become aware with, kindness, compassion, curiosity, the more you're able to figure out what the child inside of you needs. And the child inside of you is often those areas of pain or those areas of stuckness or trauma. And it's just listening. And when we ignore, the child inside of us is just going to scream louder and louder and louder until we finally pay attention. So we'll start in a seated position, doing a heart-focused breathing and radiating some love to ourselves. I'll see you on the mat. And you don't have to sit on the mat if you want to sit in your chair for the initial breathing. And I just want to ask, from the Take Lessons platform, are you hearing me okay? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Okay. All right. So in any comfortable position, and that's actually the first step of self-love. I have to tilt this down a little bit. They're not going to see me as well. There we go. Okay. Find some way to sit in a way that feels loving and kind to yourself. So cross-legged doesn't always feel loving and kind to everybody. I have one more thing to do. Sorry about this. I'm trying to make sure that both cameras have a good view, because I have a double camera set up today. And I'm going to be doing this double camera setup for the foreseeable future. Okay. All right. So get comfortable and start with eyes open or eyes closed. It's up to you. This already is about self-love. It's self-awareness is huge for self-love. So does it feel more loving to yourself to have your eyes closed or your eyes open? Does it feel more loving to put your legs in a different position than cross-leg, which for me it does, because my knees are a little achy this morning? So go ahead and check in. And check in with the same sort of kindness or compassion that you would be checking in with a friend. You're just listening with compassion to any messages that you're getting. You're kindly observing and then making any small adjustments that might need to be done to be a little more loving to yourself. So begin to slow your breathing down and direct that breath to your heart center. This is the seat of love right here. And activate a feeling of gratitude or appreciation, compassion or care for something in your life. It could be anything. It can be a flower, it can be the sun, it could be something bigger like your home or somebody very important to you. It can be a memory. By doing this, we are shifting into a more uplifting state inside of our body, inside of our heart, inside of our mind. Now, from this place of a little higher vibration, radiate this more uplifting feeling to yourself, to any part of yourself that needs it. You can even pick out something, if it's your left hip or your calf or your digestive system or your low back. Radiate that care, that appreciation, that compassion to whatever needs you have. Soaking it with the love that automatically is in your heart. And then as you're ready, go ahead and gently blink your eyes open and come on to hands and knees if you're able to. If you're not able to come on to hands and knees, you could do these cat-cows seated. But cushioning your knees, if that feels more loving and nourishing to yourself. Finding a position with your feet. For instance, some people like to lay their feet flat. Some like to tuck their toes. Finding an arm position that feels nourishing. Noticing how your wrists are. So again, paying attention. Don't just ignore places of your body that are speaking to you. We don't have to react to them, but we do need to pay attention. Just by paying a little bit of attention, we can make minor adjustments to make what we do more nourishing. It's really about mindfulness. Mindfulness to your needs without fear. See, unfortunately, when we add the fear to our paying attention, we are no longer in a loving place. Love and fear just are opposite ends of a stick. So when you move into fear, it's not as loving. Or when you move into anger or judgment. So continue to move in a loving, nourishing way. So maybe it would feel more loving and nourishing to start circling gently. Noticing how that feels physically and emotionally. How does that feel? And then maybe shifting the other directions, going slowly, going at the pace that almost feels like you're soaking in a bath. Or being, massaged by your movement. This is sort of a form of self-massage when you move in a super nourishing way. So I'm just going to shift back and forth a few times. I find this to be very nourishing. You might want to widen the knees if that gives you a little more self-love in this pose. Just staying present. And then maybe after the next round, settling into some sort of child's pose, if you are able to do child's pose. If you're not able to do child's pose, you can always lay on your back and draw the knees into the chest as well. So I'm moving down slowly and then finding a way to put my arms that feel very loving to myself. And breathing here. And again, checking in, noticing. All right, very slowly, make your way up to standing in the most nourishing way you can. I feel like doing a dog, but you might not. That may not be appropriate for you today. So decide what would be the most self-aware, loving way to move into a standing pose. Can you imagine if we just slowed down and took this kind of time with everything we did, how many fewer pains we would have in our life if we moved with this kind of mindfulness throughout our day, instead of like, jaggedy moving around and rushing off to this and rushing off to that. We can do it. We just have to pause, check in. So while you're standing here, and when you stand, check in now. So what is calling your attention right now as you check in? And the eyes closed are often a very good way to take out the distraction from around you and draw yourself inward. But again, if that doesn't feel like the most loving thing to do because your balance is off or whatever, you can keep your eyes open. These are decisions you can make for yourself based upon what is the most loving thing I can do here. So just breathe here for a moment, checking in. So what I'm doing right now is known as dynamic stillness. I am not completely still because my body is asking me to gently rock. And rocking can be, for some of us with certain nervous systems, can be very, very comforting. But if that doesn't feel comforting to you, don't do it because your teacher does it. You do it. You do what feels right to you, which means pay attention. So we're going to move very slowly through some sun salutations. I'm going to use my blocks because I find they're very helpful, and move things out of my way. Give yourself plenty of room. All right. So start with your hands at your heart. Take a couple of breaths here. Move in a way that feels nourishing. Arms go up to the sky on an inhale. So if my pace feels too slow or too fast, you go at your pace. Arms come down either towards your blocks or the ground on an exhale. Softening head, neck, and shoulders, taking a breath or two here. Then swing your arms gently back up on an inhale, noticing if everything you're doing is feeling nourishing. If it's not, make the minor adjustments that you need to make it nourishing. All right, let's go again. Number 2, arms up to the sky on an inhale. And then forward fold again on an exhale. This time, put arms on the thighs on an inhale and lengthen your spine, but again, only in a very nourishing way. Drop back down on an exhale, softening the knees, making this feel nourishing, paying attention. And for some of you, going down that far is not going to feel good, so stay up. And then arms back up overhead on an inhale, hands back to the heart on an exhale. We're going to continue to add on. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see more of what I'm doing now. Arms up to the sky on an inhale. Forward fold on an exhale, softening everything, releasing tension. Halfway up on an inhale. Forward fold on an exhale. Draw your right leg back and gently come down to a knee. Slide the left foot forward. Now, if you need your padding back under the knee, go ahead and grab that. And then take your time, very slowly, going up and breathing. But if this doesn't feel nourishing, keep your hands on the blocks or put your hands behind you. This is where you explore, what is the most kind thing I can do in this pose? Gently moving back and forth a few times. And then some of you might go a little deeper in this, again, paying attention. What is my body asking for? What feels loving and nourishing? Draw this leg through. Take your time and bring the other leg through. It might feel more loving to help it with a hand. Going back and forth again, slowly, in a very nourishing way. So a little bit of gentle movement in all parts of our body is so important for us. It is a loving thing to do. So stopping movement is not good for us, but we have to find ways in order to make that movement feel safe. Otherwise, we're not going to want to do it again. And then this time, if you could, go ahead. You're either going to bring both legs and go into a forward fold, or you're going to go back through a downward dog to a forward fold. This time, I'm just going to stand up like this and bend my knees, place my hands on my thighs, draw my body up, but I'm going to keep my knees bent for a moment, hands at the heart. This is a chair pose. And then very gently, I just want you to lift one elbow, lower the other. This is twisted chair, but again, do this in a nourishing way. And then twist gently to the other side, very gently, coming up to standing, hands overhead, hands by your side, combing through your energetic feel, and bring your hands back to your heart. Check in again. How did that feel? Did that feel loving and nourishing, or did you feel like you were doing something that wasn't benefiting you? Breathe. We want the energy to flow, but we want it to flow smoothly and nourish everything in our body. So we're going to do one more round, but this time we're not going to come down on the knee. So if you know that it's difficult for you to go from this to standing up, then don't lean down. You can modify this to make it work for your body. So again, I'll start at the side, hands at the heart. Reach your arms up to the sky with an inhale. Forward fold with an exhale. Halfway up, inhale, feel that spine engage. Now from here, again, if you don't want to bend down to do this, you would just draw a leg back. But otherwise, you bring your hands down and draw. If you can remember which leg you brought back first, I brought my left leg back first, so I'm going to draw my right leg back. I'm going to put the foot down and feel nice and balanced and take my time coming up to a warrior one. Now, if you have arthritis in the hips, make sure that your feet are mostly facing the same direction. In other words, don't turn that back foot out a lot because that can torque your hip. Let's just move in and out, bending the knee, straightening it, sliding that front foot as far forward as you need to so that you don't bend your knee past your ankle. Inhaling and exhaling and inhaling and exhaling. Draw the back leg forward. Let's go back into that chair pose again. Remember this chair pose? And let's do the twisted chair again, gently. Like, don't overdo this. I see some people doing that. It looks so uncomfortable. Do it in a way that feels nourishing. Imagine that you're like a dancer flowing, and every movement is nourishing. Come back to the center and then check in. So we have to do the other leg back next. So this time I'm going to draw my left leg back. Let's start again. Inhale, hands up to the sky. Exhale, draw the navel in to keep your low back safe. Hands on the blocks or the ground, soften your head, neck, and shoulders. Inhale, place the hands on the thigh. Feel the back lengthen, but make sure that you are engaging the core so that you don't hurt your back. Now from here, some of you are just going to draw the leg back and others are going to put your hand back down again. So this time I'm going to show you how you would do it just drawing the leg back, just bringing that leg back instead of going down. Arms up to the sky. Bend that knee, straighten. Arms up, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Pay attention to how this feels flowing through your body. Very nice. Now draw that back leg forward slowly. Bend both knees again, hands in front of the heart. This is our last twisted chair pose. Twist toward one direction and back to the center. Twist toward the other direction. Back to the center. Stand all the way up. If you feel safe to do so, close your eyes. Let's check in. Has everything you've done felt nourishing and loving toward yourself? Has it moved energy around in a way that supports yourself, that's not doing it just because you're supposed to do it, but it feels good? Breathe. Breathe. So in light of the fact that I'm asking you to do something very self-loving today, I want you to pick whichever balance you enjoy the most. So there are lots of choices. If you like tree pose, you could do tree, right? If you like leg in front pose, you could do leg in front, something like that. If you like dancer's pose, and dancer's is a hard pose, but I just kind of like the way it feels. If I can get myself into it, it's this one. I kind of feel like I'm a dancer. I don't always balance really well, but whichever one you do, choose the one that feels good, doesn't feel, judgmental, or You know, if you just want to pretend you're on a balance beam, this is a balance pose, right? One foot in front of the other. Just have fun, explore some sort of balance pose right now. And you're allowed to use a wall, people. You know, if that's a loving thing that you need to do it. See, this one just feels good on my quad because my quad's always tight. Enjoy the balance. Don't make it something that feels mean to yourself. We don't need any mean girls or mean guys here. There are plenty of those. We can be kind to ourselves. All right. Whew. Shift everything around a little bit, both directions. So for me, one of the most nourishing, self-loving standing poses is wide-legged forward fold. It's always been my favorite. It feels good. So I widen my legs. I just kind of lean on something and just let it go. This is my real let go pose. So if this is not a let go lovely pose for you, find your favorite way to let go. Release tension. Just notice what areas. So when I'm leaning over like this, I do notice that I have a left hip kind of talking to me, and even, you know, the left side of my neck. So that's my area that I would in the past call my bad side. But rather than call it the bad side, it's just an area that needs a little more love and a little more attention. It's trying to draw your attention. And the more you ignore it, the louder it's going to scream. So let's stop ignoring those parts of our body that need extra care and give it the extra care it's asking for. All right, so making our way slowly down to the ground. And we will do our mudra practice. So any sort of comfortable way to sit. So we can go do our mudra. How are you feeling? Are you feeling like you're taking care of yourself this morning? Good. Instead of, you know, doing things because we have to do it. No, do it because it's about loving yourself. All right, so I'm loving myself by sticking things under my thighs today because I don't feel like sitting cross-legged. So find a way to sit that feels loving to yourself. And today's mudra is Anamika mudra, the gesture of the ring finger. Okay, so literally, you're going to fold all your fingers back except your ring finger, and your ring fingers are going to touch each other. Now, this is a little challenging for me because my pinkies don't like to bend very much. And then just settle your hands somewhere, either on your legs, or if you're comfortable, you can, you know, put them up higher up like this. Draw your shoulders down comfortably. Good, and just settle into this pose. So the Anamika actually means the ring finger, and the mudra joins the tips of the ring fingers together to direct your breath, awareness, and energy into your pelvis, cultivating a sense of inner nourishment and self-healing. As we practice this gesture, we sense a subtle internal massage within the pelvis, experienced as waves of healing flowing out from the center of your pelvis to nourish your entire being. The nourishing massage cultivated by the gesture instills a sense of coming home to ourselves, allowing us to experience complete comfort and ease. As our sense of inner comfort deepens, we connect to our inherent wholeness. And this is really important, to realize you are whole. No matter what is going on with you, you are whole. Deepening your ability to remain centered within your own being, no matter what is happening. This enhanced self-nourishment and supporting Centering supports the development of relationships that are genuinely healing. The pelvic area is the seat of the water element Jala, and the Anamika Mudra cultivates the qualities of water, including fluidity, flexibility, and adaptability. And it's supported by the activation of the Pana Vayu, which is the downward moving current of energy. So the soothing qualities of water combined with the downward flow of Apana Vayu supports the health of your urinary and reproductive systems. It also balances and opens your Svadhisthana chakra, releasing energy blocks from the pelvis while cultivating a sense of self-nourishment and self-healing that support the release of the second chakra issues, including any feelings of abandonment, addictions, or codependency. So the guided meditation is called the Sea of Nourishment and Healing. As you hold the Anamika Mudra, take several natural breaths to attune to all the feelings and the sensations evoked by the gesture. Notice how your breath is gently directed down into your pelvis, massaging you internally with soft waves of nourishing energy. As your pelvis is immersed in gentle waves of comfort and ease, experience this area of your being as your inner sea of healing. Take several breaths to sense soft waves of nourishing energy bathing your pelvic area completely, supporting all of its glands and its organs in functioning optimally. Now, as you inhale, attune to your inner sea. And as you exhale, allow the soft waves to flow downward into your legs and feet. Take several breaths to experience your lower extremities bathed in healing energy. Now, with your next inhale, return to the sea of healing. And as you exhale, sense waves of nourishment flowing into your abdomen, the solar plexus, your low and mid back, allowing these areas to soften and completely relax. With your next inhalation, attune to the soft sea at the center of your being. And as you exhale, allow your heart, your lungs, your chest, and your upper back to be infused with healing energy. Waves of self-healing now flow upward from your inner sea to gently bathe your shoulders, cascading down into your arms and hands, all the way to your fingertips, filling these areas with healing and nourishment. With your next inhale, return to the center of your being. And as you exhale, sense your spinal column bathed in soft waves of healing. Take several breaths to allow healing energy to lubricate each disc and vertebrae. With your spinal column nourished completely, your waves of healing energy naturally flow up into your neck and head, soothing your senses and allowing them to deeply rest. As your entire being is bathed in soft waves of nourishment and healing, you naturally experience absolute calm and serenity. Affirm your source of self-healing, repeating the following 3 times, aloud or silently. As waves of nourishment bathe my being, I experience complete inner healing. As waves of nourishment bathe my being, I experience complete inner healing. As waves of nourishment bathe my being, I experience complete inner healing. Slowly release the gesture. Take several breaths to sense complete inner nourishment. And as you are ready, gently blinking open your eyes, returning slowly and gently with a greater sense of self-healing. So let's just do a twisting series seated. If you can, draw your left leg in towards your body, and if you can, bend your right leg back. If this is not working for you, you could keep that leg out straight. So with your left leg in the front, go ahead and take your right arm and place it on the left thigh. And with eyes open for the first time, go ahead and gently twist, gently, with a lot of self-love and care, and then just pick out a spot that you see either on the wall or the floor. Unwind back toward me. Now the rest of this, go ahead and keep the eyes closed. Go ahead and twisting back to the same side with engaged muscles. Feel the engagement, and then mindfully release everything back to the front. Do this 2 more times, just like this. Feel the difference in the engagement of the muscles and then the release of the muscles. And 3rd time. And release. Gently open your eyes just for a moment so you can see what I'm doing. Move this right hip in a lot of different ways that might feel like it's nourishing. So you could circle it. You could lift it up and down. You could shift it. Now, we're going to do a few more things here before we do our post check on the twist. Lift this knee up just a little bit and then lower it down. Next time you lift it up, place your hand on top of the thigh and guide it down with your hand, not pushing hard, but just sensing it. Lift the knee up, muscular engagement, release it down to the ground. Now do the same thing. Now your knee is down. Lift your heel up, just the heel. The toes are on the ground. Use your hand, press it back down. Lift the heel up again. The hand, press it back down and soften. Last time, lift the heel up and press it down. We're going to do the same thing with the front knee. Lift the knee up, using the hand, press it down and release. Lift the knee up, using the hand, press it down and release. 3rd time, lifting it up and pressing it down and release. What we're doing here is we're releasing tiny little muscles all along the leg that we usually don't pay attention to, and they're often the muscles that we need to pay attention to because they're causing our chronic aches and pains. Now take that right hand, place it back, place it on the left shoulder, twist off just a little bit, and then imagine you're doing cat-cows from the side here. So the elbow goes up, the chin goes up, the elbow goes down, the chin goes down. Do this 2 more times like this. Now I want you to try something a little unusual. So next time you bring your elbow up and chin up, open the eyes and look down. Just look down. You're not moving your head down. You're just looking down. Good. Next time you bring your elbow down, chin down, just have your eyes look up. Do that 2 more times. Elbow and chin up, eyes down. Elbow, chin down, eyes up. Last time. Elbow and chin up, look down. Elbow, chin down, look up. And then let's do a post check and see if you gained range of motion. That last thing we were doing was trying to trick the brain into releasing chronic tension and creating new neural connections. So hopefully you've gotten a big release in terms of that hip. And let's go ahead and place our hands behind our back and just shift the knees side to side. And maybe even tap your legs out, wiggle your feet, just do anything that feels good and nourishing here. And as you're ready, go ahead and set up for the other side. Make sure that you do what you need to do so that you are acting in a loving way toward the parts of your body that we're working here. So this time you're taking your left hand on your right leg. You're twisting off to the right, first time with the eyes open, checking out how far you can see in a nourishing way, and then coming back and unwinding toward me. Now close your eyes for the next couple of rounds. Just sense the engagement of the muscle and then the disengagement of the muscle. Again, moving in careful, kind, compassionate, nourishing ways to demonstrate to your body that you love yourself. And when you love yourself, you treat yourself with a great deal of kindness and compassion and respect. After the third time, open your eyes, release the hand and placing it on the back hip. Go ahead and move that hip in different directions. You can reclose your eyes if you want to once you see what I'm doing. Moving it up and down, forward and back, figure eights, circling, anything that feels good. All right, release that hand, lift the back knee a couple of inches, place a hand on it, gently press it back down. When you get to the ground, release all tension. Do that 2 more times, lifting it up, engaging the muscles, using the hand to glide it back down with engagement until you get to the bottom. Third time. Let's do the same thing with our ankle. So your toes stay on the ground. All you're doing is lifting up that ankle. And then with the hand, if you can reach, you're guiding it down. If the hand doesn't reach, you don't have to use your hand. Lifting that ankle again, guiding it back down. When you get to the ground, soften. Feel the difference between a softened muscle and an engaged muscle. Third time. Now let's focus on this front knee. Lift that knee up. Use the hand to guide it back down to the ground. Release all tension when it gets to the ground. 2 more times. Lift it up. Guide it down. Last time. Make sure when you guide it down, when it gets to the ground, that you completely release muscular effort. Good. Now take your left hand and place it on your right shoulder. Turn off to the side and do some cat-cows on the side here. Chin up, elbow up, engage back body. Chin down, elbow down, engage front body. Inhaling. And exhaling. Third time. Inhaling and exhaling. Now for this one, you do need your eyes open. So you're going to have your chin up, your elbow up, but have your eyes, just your eyes look down. Good. Now bring your chin down, your elbow down. Just have your eyes look up. Chin up, elbow up, eyes look down. Chin down, elbow down, eyes look up. Go ahead and release all of this and do your post check and see if you've gained range of motion. Oh yeah, my body is releasing a lot here. Release the pose, release the instructions, rub your legs down in a loving way. If you're only sticking with me for 45 minutes, this would be the time to go into your rest pose. For those of you who are staying on with me for the end of class, we're going to come on to our backs, neck, next, in any way that does feel safe and self-loving. So this one is also going to be a hip release pose because our hips store a lot of our unprocessed emotions, a lot of our traumas and things like that. I'm going to tilt this camera down a little bit more to make sure. I think you guys up at the top can see me fine. All right. So there's a lot of instructions in this one, just because it's very subtle movement. So the instructions will help you feel it. Knees are bent, feet are on the floor. My arms are by my side, palms down. So spend a minute checking in, first of all. What do you notice? We're going to move one hip at a time. Your knees are going to try to stay straight up to the sky. So literally, I'm just lifting my right hip up almost imperceptibly, but I feel my muscles engage, and then I'm putting it back down. So I would say I'm lifting it up barely so I could stick fingers under my rear. That's it. Excuse me. Back down. So do that one more time. Lift that hip and lower it down. So just that little movement, you're engaging and disengaging around the hip. So we're going to add on from here. You're going to lift that hip, which is your right hip. I hope I told you. Whatever side you're lifting, I hope I said right. Look right, turn that right palm over. And now let it all go. So lift right hip, look right, turn palm over, draw shoulder under back, let it go back to the middle. So now you should have like a whole crescent moon on that side. Lift right hip, look right, turn that palm over, shoulder a little bit under the back, and release it. So now we're going to add on one more. Lift that right hip, look right, palm over, shoulder tuck. Now you're trying to draw these knees toward each other. They may go, they may not. But when you do that, you spread the back body muscles and then release that all. Do that 2 more times. Lift right hip, look right, palm over, shoulder tucked, knees come toward each other. Everything releases back to the middle. Last time for this one. Lift right hip, look right, palm over, shoulder tuck, knees toward each other, and let it go. Last thing we're adding, and again, this has to be done in a self-loving, nourishing way. Lift right hip, look right, palm over, shoulder tucked, knees toward each other. Have the head come back to the center as you gently lift the left hip to meet the right hip. So they're both like an inch or 2 off the ground. That's it. Now roll to the right side. Let that right hip come down first, and then the left hip. We'll do that 2 more times. Here we go. Lift right hip, look right, palm over, shoulder tucked, knees come toward each other. Head back to the center as you lift the left hip to meet the right. Roll the right hip down first, left hip second. This time I'm not going to say any instructions. I want you to feel into this as best you can so that you sense what you're doing. Here we go. Now, for a moment, do something that feels nourishing. Maybe you want a windshield wiper. Maybe you want to draw your knees up in the sky for a minute. Maybe you want to do all these things. And then maybe you want to stretch out just for a moment, seeing if you can sense any differences between your right hip and your left hip. My right hip feels more alive. It feels a little closer to the ground. My right leg feels longer from just doing those small movements. So let's repeat this whole sequence on the other side. Bend those knees back up, palms start facing down. Just start by lifting that left hip up and lowering it. What we're doing is we're releasing chronic tension through very small, nourishing movements. Lift it up the second time, let it go down. And do this a third time. Lift it up and let it go down. Adding on, lift the left hip, look left. Turn that left hand to face the sky. Draw that shoulder under the back. Release everything back to the middle. Lift that left hip, look left. Palm to the sky, shoulder tucked. Release everything back to the middle. Last time for this part. Lift left hip, look left. Palm over, shoulder tucked. Let it all go. Adding on. Lift left hip, look left. Palm to sky, shoulder tucked. Draw the knees toward each other and then release everything back to the middle. Lift left hip, look left. Palm over, shoulder tucked, knees toward each other. Everything back to the middle. I think this is our third time on this one. Lift left hip, look left, palm over, shoulder tucked, knees toward each other, release to the middle. Now we're adding our last part of this. Lift left hip, look left, palm to sky, shoulder tucked, knees toward each other. Draw head back to center as you lift the right hip to meet the left hip. Now place the left hip down first and then roll the right hip down. Let's do this 2 more times. Lift left hip, look left, palm to sky, shoulder tucked, knees toward each other. Head back to center as you lift the right hip. Now roll the left hip down first and then the right hip. Release. Last time. Lift left hip. Look left. Palm to sky, shoulder tuck. Knees toward each other. Release, head back to center as you lift the right hip up. Put the left hip down on the floor first, and then the right hip. And then do something that feels nourishing. Maybe it's a windshield wiper. Maybe you want to circle your knees, give your low back a nice massage. So again, when we release the hips in this fashion, we're releasing a lot of stuck emotions, a lot of trauma, a lot of things we don't want to deal with. Our hips are considered the junk drawer of the body. So you just stuff things in there and you ignore it. So we're letting them go, all of them. So settle down into whatever feels like your most comfortable rest pose. If you don't want to be on your back anymore, you could finish up in seated meditation. Find anything that you need to be the most loving that you can be to yourself. And we will finish our class with a really lovely reading that I discovered that really spoke to me about this subject, about what we experience about not having, self-love, and then when we finally do discover it. I will tell you that I come by this honestly because I would say I was a typical female people pleaser, perfectionist, and more females end up with autoimmune disease because of this people-pleasing perfectionism that's kind of built into us. And releasing the people-pleasing and perfectionism can be very, very self-healing and a sign of self-love. She sat at the back, and they said she was shy. She led from the front, and they hated her pride. They asked her advice and then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud, then were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad. So she told them her dreams, and they said she was mad. They told her they'd listen, then covered their ears and gave her a hug while they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking she should be the girl they told her to be the best as she could. But one day she asked what was best for herself instead of trying to please everyone else. So she walked to the forest and stood with the trees. She heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves. She spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine, and she told them what she had been told time after time. She told them she felt she was never enough. She was either too little or far, far too much, too loud or too quiet, too fierce or too weak, too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. And then she found a small clearing surrounded by firs, and she stopped, and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours, not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing. It just let her breathe. So just breathe and know you are whole, and know you don't have to be perfect, and know you don't have to please everybody, but you do have to take care of yourself, because you can't do anything else if you can't love yourself. So as to not forget all this self-love, I want you to get up in the most loving way, listening to what your body and everything needs as you shift into a seated position. And then draw in anything that spoke to you, anything that you felt will help you on your journey toward more self-love. I acknowledge you as whole people. And together, let's say, namaste.